They do work, they can work.
Robot vacuum cleaners, they were all the rage a few years ago. I think we both got them at home.
We can edit this, can't we? So as we were talking about, robot vacuum cleaners and, well, robot lawnmowers as well, very similar. Obviously one...
I haven't got a lawnmower. I did look at them at one point. And then we got rid of our lawn, so there was no need anymore.
I deliberately didn't get one because I need the steps, I need the exercise, so I deliberately have a...
Yeah, it was a downside to having them as well as an upside.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've had a few of those robot vacuum cleaners you get for the house, and there's a mop one as well.
And some of them do both.
Yeah.
So we've got ones that do both. To be honest, we only use it as a vacuum. I've never swapped it over to do the mopping, but it can do the mopping as well. So yeah, they seem great, and I think they do a good job. The suction power on them is getting greater all the time. So, but if you're hoovering every day, there's not it doesn't need a massive suck to pull everything up. I have noticed though that some of them have a limited memory space and they can't map the whole of a floor. Now, I don't know whether that's physical floor area or that is actually how complicated your floor area is. I should imagine it's a combination of the two. If you've just got one big warehouse and it's massive, that must be easy to map and do. If you've got a house with lots of little nooks and crannies and things.
Now, so you and I were talking about this the other day, and I thought about this because your floor space that you've got yours deployed in is bigger than the floor space I've got mine deployed in. So we thought, well, maybe there's this size complexity limitation, but it might actually be just a brand issue or a model issue. Because I actually remember having, after we spoke, I remembered having one 10 years ago that did the whole of our place when I lived abroad. It was like one downstairs, but the downstairs was huge and it didn't have a problem doing all of that.
Yeah, I actually, well, looking into it, because ours doesn't, I looked into it and one advertised that it could do, 430 square meters of floor space. So it must be a thing. The fact that someone's advertising they can do that much suggests to me that there must be a limitation on some of them that can't do that much. That's why.
Well, I wonder as well. Sometimes they get confused, don't they? So maybe it thinks it can't go past a certain point when actually it can.
Yeah,
that can happen as well. They can get a bit. Generally, I think they're very, very clever devices.
Oh,
I just get the map of like where it's been this morning,
and we can see in real time where it currently is and where it's left to go and things. So ours gets confused because we've got some bifold doors and it goes up and it thinks there's more floor space outside because it sees above the rim of the door and it sees out and it just can't get to where it wants.
Very frustrating vacuum cleaner that you've got in your house.
And the other thing we've noticed is it's recently just changed the order in which it vacuums. So it used to vacuum one room, then move on to another room. Now it's doing the second room.
They're supposed to learn. I'm not quite sure what they learn, but they're supposed to. But I said health learning there.
It's still vacuuming the same area. I just don't. I think it's just got bored of doing it that way, and it's decided to flip it round for a while.
So you got a frustrated robot vacuum cleaner and one that got bored and decided to change things up a bit, just a bit of interest.
Well, it's the same one actually, right. But yeah, it's the same one. But yes, I've noticed. Yeah, because it used to do the living room
changes again.
Right? In another 2 or 3
thing.
Yeah, but yeah, it's weird. It used to do the kitchen and the dining room and then the hall, but now it's doing the hall first and then it's going in and doing the kitchen and dining room. I only know because that means when I'm trying to cook my breakfast or do my breakfast, it's knocking around my feet. Whereas before it was like, no, it's out of the way.
In the way. What other robot devices have we got deployed around your house? I don't think I've got any.
Well, I've obviously got the smart speakers. I've gone, as you know, Google. So I've got Google, several versions of the Google speakers. Fire Stick, which is also, well, that's Amazon, isn't it? But it's Google based. I love the fact that you can speak into that and search.
Yeah, I can't get on with that. Maybe I'm showing my age, but my wife does it. She speaks into it all the time. I just like search for it on on the old remote.
flicking around or whatever, isn't it? But that's not really automation, is it? I think there's lots of automation that you don't even recognise. If you have got Google TVs and it throws up suggested content, and that's based on across all the channels, and that's based on recent viewing. So that will change. So it throws up suggestions for YouTube, your Netflix, your Amazon, and
you can waste even more time watching TV.
It draws you in with things that you might like. So I mean, it's not a robot, but it's automation, isn't it? And intelligent thinking.
Oh, but even your cars, a lot of modern cars are automated now. Come with an app, and you can turn the AC on or the heating on, or find out where it is. Heaven forbid someone's stolen it, but whether you lock the doors. If I walk away from my car, I get a reminder on my phone saying you didn't actually lock it. You want to lock it, and you can remote lock it.
Yeah, I know cars lock themselves, but then you've got the key in the pocket. You walk up and it unlocks. So when you first get a car, you're constantly walking. Oh, did I lock it or not? And you walk back up and, oh no, I didn't. But it's because the key's in your pocket and whatever that. I think with car automation, the one thing that's a negative, in my opinion, is this automatic braking. Drives me mad with.
Oh, the collision damage.
Yeah.
It's a safety feature, though, isn't it? And it's like,
well, I think it's a negative safety feature because it slams on the brakes and people might run into the back of me because there's no need. That car's turning off. I wasn't going to hit it. But it's not intelligent enough to realise that. So the automation is there.
My mum bought a new car recently, and it's got quite a good integration. I think it's with Google Maps, where you can actually send the car where you want to go before you get in it. So you don't have to faff around when you get from my mother. It's great. She doesn't have to faff around when she gets in it. The car, she automatically knows where she's going because she's already told it.
Yeah, so I suppose on automation, we're not talking home automation now, but I watched a video the other day. The guy must have been in America because he got in his Tesla, dare I say that word, and he said, take me somewhere I've never been before. And the car just drove. So he wasn't even touching the steering wheel, and it took him off. We don't have autonomous driving here, do we?
Isn't it?
But if you take that, we're not that far. Well, the technology's there. We're not that far. So getting a taxi from the station, whatever, and parking, find somewhere to park. Well, in the future, it'll be drive to the station, get out at the train station, car, go home. Go home, drives itself home. And then as you're leaving, or nearly like wherever you're leaving and back on the train, car, be at the station for this time, and it turns up and you get in and off you go type thing.
So what you're saying, anyone who's running a taxi company at the moment might want to think about the future.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously taxi companies have survived by moving down the Uber or the Bolt route with apps. They all have apps now and prepay, etc. But again, my local, I won't name them, but our local, I've had a number of run-ins with our local taxi company because you fill in the details, prepay, and it says your taxi will cost between this and this, and it drops you off. And we live in a village, and they add an extra £5 on because you're in the village. It's like, well, the app should have been able to say, it knows where you're going. By the way, the range is this and this, and add the £5 on. So,
is that a failure of technology or a failure of human?
Well, it's a failure of humans to deploy technology correctly, to understand what they're doing. I think it's a failure. It's a human. Well, all technology fails because of a human problem. You know, if we have an aircraft that's flying, as they all do on their own now, they can take off, fly, and whatever on their own. If there's you don't get pilot error anymore, you get programmer error. If a plane flies into a mountain, it's no longer pilot error, it's still a human error, but it's now someone that's unfortunately around to repeat the problem. If it was a pilot error, then they might have died and they won't be able to repeat the mistake. Bit harsh, but
incredibly harsh.
Just that's the problem, isn't it? You've got a programmer that hasn't learned from their mistakes.
Not sure how we got from robot vacuum cleaner to
Yeah.
pilots crashing planes, but
It's one of those days we're wandering all over. We haven't really talked about robot lawnmowers either. We talked about it, didn't we? But they're very similar to vacuum cleaners. But I understand that we haven't got one, but they work on you set up a perimeter, don't you? They don't learn.
some of them. So I looked at this before we changed our mind of what we're doing with our garden. Some of them do, some of them don't. So some of them you need to like stick a wire in the ground to basically tell it what the perimeter is. And others don't require that, but do require you to have some sort of defined border. So obviously a fence is fine, but if you've got a plant bed, you need to put some sort of defined border in there so it can recognize it's a border and doesn't just crash into the plant bed.
Well, so
you don't actually have to put in the electric wire.
But with the robot vacuum cleaners, it maps the whole area. Then you put either what they call virtual walls,
Yes.
or you put restricted areas.
Yes.
So you could, if once the robot lawnmower has mapped the area, you could put a restricted area and say this is a flower bed. Obviously, it's been through the flower bed once and destroyed it.
Time.
Yeah.
But I think they work very similar technology, and they're obviously all IP rated for outdoor use. And they cut your lawn. A lot of them cut the lawn like every day, and they just take like a very, very tiny bit of it, like all day, every day. I don't know how good they are for lawns. No, I'm not green fingered enough to work that one out.
Well, I guess if you're just cutting it just a small bit off the top,
it's probably fine.
Yeah. Next door neighbour is a lawn expert. So we do cut our lawn at the maximum setting you can cut it for, because that's the best way to keep a lawn, apparently, is not. If you cut it too short or very short, that's when you get a lot of moss in it.
So have you asked them about robot vacuum cleaners?
I haven't, because I don't think you'll be vacuum cleaners or lawnmowers.
Lawnmowers.
I don't know, because I don't think he'd be interested in that, because that would be, although they don't cut lawns, but it sort of takes away.
Because it's what you're saying. If you cut your lawn long and that's the way to keep it, according to the experts, great. But you're not going to be cutting it every day, are you? You're going to be cutting it once a week? At
the moment, in spring, our lawn is growing really quickly. I'm sure everyone's lawn is growing really quickly.
You cut it every day?
No, I don't now.
But a robot lawnmower would.
I think this time of year it would need cutting every day through middle of March. From the middle of March, where are we? No, we're in April. So from the end of March, probably all the way through April, maybe middle of May, probably needs cutting every day. And then in the summer, it doesn't grow as much, does it? And you probably need to cut it once a week. But at the moment, I don't think it does grow.
I was looking outside now, quite long.
And that was only cut. It was only cut 2 days.
Maybe I'd get a robot lawnmower to do like during the week, and then you can just do it once at the weekend.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be doing it at the weekend.
I wouldn't be though, would I? No.
Just leave it.
No. You don't have a dog.
But I think you need to experiment with a robot lawn. I don't think we're qualified to have this conversation. Just go and spend some money on a robot lawnmower or 3.
True. Might have to get one for the front garden, one for the back garden.
Yeah, you need at least 2, because there needs to be some sort of comparison.
Or if there's a robot lawn manufacturer out there,
tenders are coming. That's incredibly hopeful. Incredibly hopeful.
And
you could sponsor this. Yeah, just send us a lawnmower or 2.
Different ones, and home robot vacuums as well, because the ones we have.
Is there a company that does both? I haven't seen a company that does both.
Surely the Chinese companies like Xiaomi or Xiaomi or whatever they're called or whatever.
I haven't seen one. I suppose that, obviously the mapping and the movement is similar, but the actual application is quite different in terms of the robustness of a lawnmower versus a hoover.
The housing, yeah, but surely the technology, you're mapping an area and you're going over it systematically.
Yeah, but you don't want to hoover your garden or cut your floor, do you?
Well, that's just the application of the technology, though.
I remember seeing Robot Wars back in the day.
And they still exist,
does it?
Yeah.
And the way in which people tried to apply technology differently to achieve different levels of aggressiveness and defensiveness. And I think they ended up obviously they were all robots, and they all have certain things in common, but I think actual engineering is quite different.
It is, but that's just different people applying the technology to what they see as the problem or the solution, isn't it?
Yeah.
And in fact, that is a very good parallel to the business world, isn't it? There's technologies out there, it's applying it in the way that is suitable for each business. Each business is individual. It might all be in the same industry, different industries. Every business is unique and every business is similar in a way.
You're 100% right. So robot vacuum cleaners, for example, definitely, I'm not trying to say because back to that conversation, but they would definitely came first.
Yeah.
And then robot lawnmowers came quite a bit later, presumably because they presented more engineering problems. But somebody said, hold on a minute, if we can do a robot vacuum cleaner, surely we can do a robot lawnmower.
For me, the only significant difference is a robot lawnmower has to be IP65 rated, doesn't it? So you can it gets rained on or something. Whereas a vacuum cleaner doesn't have to be as.
But the point is, I was agreeing with you that the vacuum cleaners came first, and then someone said, hold on a minute, we can apply this technology to other things such as lawnmowers, slightly different problems, but they didn't hit the market at the same time.
No,
the vacuum cleaners were definitely out there first, and then someone presumably took that technology and said, well, I've got a different application for that.
But yeah, I mean, even robot vacuums are evolving. So the first iterations were just vacuums. We've already talked about some now do mopping as well as vacuuming. I think the significant step up was going from a vacuumed robot to one that self-empties. So that's a big...
Yeah, it's relatively recent.
Yeah, so they go back to the docking station and they suck it all out into a bag and you just throw away the bag as you would do with a normal vacuum.
Yeah, but I remember the original ones came with a cartridge that was like the size of a cup or tall glass. It was like, well, it can't really do a lot before it has to go home and wait for you to come and empty it.
Yeah, so we got one of both, and we've got the non-self-emptying one first, and even though it hoovers every day, or vacuums every day, not hoovers, every 2 days you have to empty that container.
Yeah, it's surprising how much stuff it picks up. Yeah,
it's all just dust and stuff, but it's like, wow. Whereas the self-emptying one can go for a month before you...
Oh, really? That long?
Oh, it hasn't warned me yet that I have to empty the bag. It's got a...
He's had it 3 years.
It was 3 years. It exploded the other day. No, I keep pushing it thinking, oh, it must be nearly full, but no, there's still room in the bag, so...
And are they getting better at obstacle avoidance? Because that was the thing. I mean, when you first got them, if it went over you had a lamp plugged in and it went over the wire, you get a message saying, I'm stuck. And it'd been going about 3 minutes.
Well, so one thing I've had to teach the family is not to leave their charging cables lying on the floor, because everyone charges in bed their phones or whatever at night and then just throws it off and it's lying on the floor. So no, they still suck those up there. So, but the big thing that I think the latest ones do is, dare I say, dog poo avoidance. So some of the earlier ones wouldn't recognize dog.
Sorry, we're talking vacuum cleaners?
We're talking vacuum.
Well,
actually, I'm sure lawns might be the same, but no, I'm talking about vacuum cleaners. So if a dog made a mess, luckily ours is house trained, so we haven't had that problem, but I understand some houses aren't like that. Comes across a mess and it would just happily distribute it around the house. Yeah. So, because again, I've seen that advertised on some vacuums that they recognise dog poo, as it were, or...
Fair enough. Not something I look for, and I'm not sure I'd thought I'd have needed, but obviously somebody needed it because they built it in.
Yeah, but it's going back to are they getting better at avoiding obstacles, aren't they? I don't know, but those are the sort of features that they've had to improve to avoid certain obstacles. Yeah.